play on the field, the courts, and the ice is just one part of sports. Behind every game are the people hard at work so we can enjoy the action. They're the owners, administrators, agents, broadcasters, and promoters who bring the games to life. Meet them when you go behind the game with Patrick Klinger and Bill Robertson. Welcome to Behind the Game. I'm Patrick Klinger, president of Agile Marketing Partners, coming to you from Medina Country Club in Medina, Minnesota. My usual co-host, Bill Robertson, is on official United States Hockey League duties in Pittsburgh today, so he's unable to join us. So I'm flying solo. Today's guest is a very familiar face in the business of sports and entertainment. He's incredibly well respected. He's a frequent speaker on the tour of business and sports business and entertainment conferences and symposiums. He's a Minnesota native, now living in Denver. He's also the vice president of partner solutions at Forefront. Bill Nielsen, welcome to Behind the Game.
Thank you, Patrick. It's a pleasure to see you again. And anytime I can talk to a Minnesotan, it's a good day.
Well, we're delighted that you're joining us. You and I have been friends for a long time, and I've been trying to get you on the show for quite some time, and I'm glad it finally happened today. You graduated from the University of Minnesota with a BS in aerospace engineering and from Robert Morris University with an MBA in sports management. Now, it's quite a shift to go from rocket science to sports. How did that happen?
Yeah, so well, we got to get in the time machine first. So this is the early 90s, right? Nirvana, and that the what we called at the time, or I guess what we call now, internet. Patrick, you remember it was the World Wide Web. And hey, last time the Minnesota team won a professional championship, one of the big four, right? The Twins. So I'm a kid. I grew up in St. Cloud, really good with math and numbers. That was just me. This sports marketing kind of side of things as a business wasn't. It was a little bit there. Ohio U always had a very strong program. They were around, but nothing like it was now. And I don't know. I guess it just didn't seem like necessarily a career path. And when you're just exceptionally good with numbers, and I was that kid in math. That's what I'm going to do. I always wanted to be a gopher and go to school there. So I hit my junior year and I did an internship in San Diego with General Dynamics, a big company that's still around. This is when they had a rocket program, and it just hit me kind of like a ton of bricks that I just don't think this is what I want to do. I still love numbers, finished my degree, and I did a complete 180. And when there was no in between, I went right to grad school and got an MBA in sports management and did an internship at the U.S. Olympic Committee. I'm sure my mom and dad thought I was a little crazy. I had advisors that I recall very distinctly at the University of Minnesota that thought I was nuts. But the one thing I would say, Patrick, for kind of just listeners really of any age is I'll count myself lucky that at an early age, I just knew it. And I didn't fake it. I'll try this engineering thing, and if it doesn't work, I just went for it. And here I am 30 years later. So,
Bill, you mentioned that you grew up a passionate fan of Minnesota sports teams, but you've lived in Denver now for a while. So you haven't been swayed yet to become a fan of the Broncos or the Nuggets or the Avalanche?
Yeah, so major pet peeve of mine. It really bothers me when people go that route. The lifeblood of this industry to me is you own it. Good, bad, ugly. Let's be honest, as a Minnesota fan, mostly ugly. You just own it. Good luck monetizing a casual fan. Who can ever do that? So I am a Minnesotan. That's what I grew up with. Those are my teams. I was in Boulder last week for my Gophers, beating up the Buffaloes. And those are just the teams that I follow. And, I think one of the things maybe we'll touch on a little bit later, I'm pretty passionate about this concept of out-of-market fans. It's never really been very available or very official or formal through the league offices to monetize that, but it's significant. And that is what I'm about. There are the concepts, and you hear stuff like when you work at agencies of cheering for paychecks, and that is not me. I wear my teams on my sleeve, and frankly, I think the industry really appreciates that because they know that's where their money and really bread and butter is at the end of the day. Avid fans, passionate fans.
Bill, tell us a little bit about your role at Forefront and what Forefront does.
So Forefront is an agency co-founded by two good friends of mine that I've known for a long time, Dan Magala and Josh Kreitzler. Dan is with me here in Denver. Josh is in Chicago. The company's been around for about 12 years, and we do a number of different things in the industry. We are a digital agency for a number of teams and selling tickets. We run a lot of strategy and innovation. We provide a lot of fan insights. My role specifically at the company is vice president of our partner solutions group, which is basically our sales arm. So my job would be to talk to you in your time at the Twins, or somebody at the Dodgers, or somebody at the University of Kansas about what are their needs and issues and opportunities and challenges, and try to kind of fit those puzzle pieces into how we could help their business. The good news here at Forefront, kind of unlike some of the roles I've had in the past, is we do a number of different things. So it's easier for us to kind of find a solution and a potential path forward. But the one thing probably that's been the biggest shift for me, Patrick, is, and from our days of knowing each other, is I was on the plane pretty regularly. Every other week for my entire career, I've been on a plane to go see somebody. I've been on one business trip in 18 months. So that is a significant shift to the system, both personally and professionally.
I just got back from my first business trip since the pandemic began this past weekend. I was out in New York, and it was good to see the city seemingly coming back to life. I was at Yankee Stadium for a couple of games. The crowds were there. It seemed normal. But here we are now in month 18 or so of the pandemic. We are seeing sporting events returning to some level of normalcy. Venues are back operating at full capacity. It's still not over yet, though. So what are some of the things that you've learned about how sports is operating in the pandemic, and what can we expect going forward?
So one of the things we did kind of through our insights group is actually looked at some numbers right in the midst of this. So 6 to 9 months ago, kind of right in the heart of this, where if anything was being played, it was purely in a bubble. Some folks on cameras, nobody in the audience. And there's actually a metric that's essentially like a COVID reemerger, which I think of it just as a hand raiser. It's kind of the portion of the American public that even then was saying, I'm just ready. I'm ready to do things. I want to get out of my house. I want to go to an event, to a concert. And, here we are where we're at least back to, I feel like it's been gangbusters, to be perfectly honest. College football, pro football, people are ready. I've been to a handful of concerts myself, packed, absolutely packed. So I feel that that for sure is happening. I think what's interesting is, even if there is some hesitancy, maybe on some traditional fans, perhaps some fans of older age, like my parents, is being maybe more than filled in with, again, this concept of maybe some younger fans are, I need to get out and I want to do things, and I want to maybe try some things that I didn't or wasn't as interested in pre-pandemic. I think the one thing that's going to be really interesting now coming up pretty soon, Patrick, is let's be honest, outdoor is way easier. The concerts and events I'm talking about are football games outdoors and outdoors at amphitheaters. Once we move into the winter season, especially in the locales where we live, and we're talking about hockey and basketball indoors, I hope it's not a different equation, but remain to be seen.
Bill, how are sports properties and venues adjusting their approach to business now, not quite post-pandemic, but hopefully as we near the end of it?
Yeah, I think, one thing that's just been interesting, even just as a consumer, So just in the last couple of weeks, I've been to a Jimmy Buffett concert at Red Rocks, and you had to show proof of vaccination. I then went to a college football game in Boulder, Minnesota, at Colorado, and that was not required. So just that part of it, I think, is kind of interesting. Whether it's maybe even potentially some, let's call it, confusion on behalf of the consumer. Where can I go? Where can I not? What do I need to bring? What if I don't have it with me? But I think teams overall, the easiest way for us to think of that, Patrick, in terms of our business, is the digital work that we do, and it's hot and heavy right now. And there's not a lot of digital messaging that we're doing specifically. Click here to buy a ticket. That is about safety and protocols, which I think is a pretty good leading indicator that, again, fans are just ready. It's more about what's the price for me to get in. What is the seat availability? So a little bit of that is old school. I think we maybe thought there would have been more. How many hand sanitizer stations will there be? Is there an area where I can go that's more of a DAC to kind of get some fresh air? There hasn't, frankly, been a lot of that messaging, or to the level we thought. It is, we're back, tickets are on sale, click here to buy.
Any passionate sports fan knows that analyzing data is really critical to acquiring talent, to making decisions, to establishing game plans, right? But how is data being used on the business side of sports and entertainment to shape some of those decisions?
Yeah, so I mean, one of the things that and I do some speaking at college classes here in Denver at DU and other colleges, and we kind of get into this subject where a lot of people in terms of analytics and sports are familiar with Moneyball, right? Pop culture is a great way to introduce kind of the masses to, but as we well know, Patrick, that's analytics on the player side, right? Analytics on the business side has probably in some semblance been around for as long, but really within the last 5 to 10 years has pretty significantly ramped up. So, a couple simple ways to think of it is, one is on the sponsorship side. That is something that teams would have zero insight into historically or traditionally. Are my fans going to buy a pickup truck? Do my fans shop at Home Depot or do they shop at Lowe's? Do my fans prefer soft drink or bottled water? There's really no direct way for a team to know that historically. Probably started, honestly, with a handful of teams back in the day, Patrick, saying, let's do some focus groups or some small version of fan surveys. But that's kind of hard to scale when the numbers got bigger in some of these partnerships. More significantly, and what's been around longer, is understanding analytics on more of the side of the business you grew up on, which is understanding fans and what they want in terms of the ticket buyers and how to make that fan experience better for them. So, those are the two main areas for sure where data is used. Understand my current ticket buyer so I can sell more to that person or find more like them. And then also analyze these people in terms of, outside of them loving baseball or football or hockey or whatever that team may be, what does their day in the life look like? What kind of products are they consuming? So that those brands have an opportunity to be a part of that sport as well and intersect with them in that fashion.
Sports teams collect a huge amount of data on their ticket buyers and their followers. But are they doing enough, Bill, to really take advantage of all the information that they're collecting?
Again, way better. So, Patrick, I had shared with you, when I started a big chunk of my career was at Scarborough and running the sports division there and part of the Nielsen company. And we sold Scarborough to the Twins when you were there, and frankly, most teams in professional and major college sports. When I started at Scarborough, so, not that much more than 20 years ago, about 20 years ago, we were in the dark ages. It was amazing. I would ask people, how do you know what kind of car your fans drive? I walked the parking lot before games and literally scan observation. How about demographics? How many men are versus women are at your games? Again, I'm at the game. I kind of scan the audience. So, hey, love observational skills, but again, that's kind of hard. How do you translate that into a meeting with Toyota or the agency for Lowe's? So that's just a generation ago. So we've really moved forward. But boy, Patrick, the good news is sports has always had and starts with really good info. Yes, there's a lot of secondary ways. I can go to Fanatics and buy my apparel. I can go to the secondary market like StubHub and buy my ticket. But there's still a lot of those purchases happening from the team directly. So the team has that information. And so it's just gotten a lot better. But you compare even simple things, Patrick, like analytics or insights budgets at a team compared to a CPG brand. It's not even the ratio. It's in a lot of cases, it's not close. So we're way better, but we've still got a long ways to go. The good news is the data's there.
More and more decisions, Bill, from what takes place on the field of play to the front office, they're being delegated to data. But where does that leave intuition? I mean, is there still a place for gut instinct in sports, or is it all now just data and analytics and sabermetrics?
On the sports business side, 100%. Again, a topic you and I have chatted about a little bit. I had mentioned that I've been on one single business trip in 18 months. This format that we're on right now, my job at the end of the day is to talk to you at a property, understand your opportunities and challenges, and find where our solutions can fit in. It's why we call our group Partner Solutions. You're a potential partner. We want to find a solution, a way we can work together. I struggle to do that on a video call, Patrick. And that's what we've all been doing for 18 months. So purely and every single property has a bunch of sales folks, corporate partnership sellers, a ton of ticket sellers. I'm a seller. For all of us, you cannot replicate sitting in front of an audience. And I would say this translates into a lot of things. People who are on the ticket side and just the opportunity to have audience with season ticket holders and hold focus groups, et cetera. So that can never go away. I would, one of the things very specifically that I've talked about internally with some of my colleagues, we call it the walk to the elevator. So the walk to the elevator is, Patrick, I meet with you and a number of your colleagues, and we finish the meeting, right? And even within the meeting, the visual cues, leaning forward in your chair, you could be looking down at your phone right now, for all I know, versus looking at notes, right? So there's a lot of things in person that you can pick up on. But the walk to the elevator is the meeting ends and you walk me to the elevator. And in that 15 seconds, it is, okay, Bill, here's the deal. Joe doesn't like you or what you're pitching, but Jill's in. So we're good with Jill. We're going to work on Joe. Okay. And all of those little things that right now we sign on, you kind of do, we've all been there, right? You wrap around, everybody does an intro and you're done. Everybody waves and you sign off. So back to the human connection is critical in our business. Getting back to our industry conferences, seeing people at All-Star games. The All-Star game was here in Denver. It really kind of was the first event, Patrick. That was in July, which seems a while ago now. And it was packed. And it was great to see people in the baseball world back in an event.
You mentioned human connections, and that was actually my next question. We understand the importance of data in the business of sports, but sports is ultimately about human connection, right? It's about being in a venue and celebrating a big win or commiserating during a loss. How does data help grow human connections?
Yeah, I think that part's tricky, right? Because you think of kind of the younger generation. I've got 3 kids, and they're great kids. They're active kids. They're all in sports and extracurricular activities, but they have a face and a phone as middle schoolers that we never had. So I think you got to find the hybrid. I think to think that kids and kind of this next generation is just going to go purely old school and learn about the sport via playing and attending events, it has to be things like AI, or how can I know we're probably going to talk a little bit about sports betting. There are ways to engage, because I think it's tricky. I really do. When you talk purely about the fan engagement side of it, the next generation, my kids, does not think of watching and attending games the same way that we do.
Well, let's talk a little bit about kids and specifically Generation Z. So those young people who were born after 1996, less than 50% of them now identify as fans of traditional sports. How concerning is that for sports properties and leagues and venues? And what do they do about that?
The $1 million question, right? It's in my entire career, I think a lot of times, whether it's the people that I'm meeting with or working with, or even yourself, to reflect back on yourself, to think of just your own personal situation is a lot of times a smart way to go. So my wife and I have 3 kids. They're triplets. So we have triplet 7th graders. They're 12 years old. Preteens, classic, just recently all got phones for the first time. They're in middle school, and all the dynamics of that. For them, I will tell you flat out, Patrick, they all play sports. My son, one son, 2 daughters. My son is more into being a fan than my 2 daughters. But even him, he's not sitting down for a 3-hour game. He's just not. It hasn't happened one single time. I don't see it happening. He'll sit down and want to kind of engage with a little bit of the game plan, what's going on. But it's 10 or 15 minutes. So I don't know what the answer is. I took him to the football game in Boulder. He was definitely more interested in that. So I think there's something there where the live event part of it, I think a kid can really get into. But even that, we've got to get away from, the historical, every pack the seats, it looks better on TV. What else is there to do at the venue? Venues have gotten way better at that. The food options compared to when we used to go to games as a kid, because to me, that's what a kid, even if you get him to go to the game, does not want to sit in the seat and watch every single play for 3 hours. I think those days are gone.
Mm-hmm. But isn't it a little bit of a paradox when if you attend a baseball game and the team in the league is feeding you so much information, right? And there's so much on your phone, you're spending most of your time looking down, not looking at the action on the field. It's part of the reason that the league has extended the netting down the lines in baseball is because people aren't paying attention the way that they once did. So it seems as if that's, we're trying to keep fans entertained constantly, but we're doing it through our devices.
Yeah, I'll contradict you on that. I'm for that. And again, this goes back to, owners probably even not that long ago, maybe even still today, some, Patrick, if you are in the lounge, the betting lounge, or whatever we have at the venue, and you're not in your seat, that doesn't look as good on television. Get over it. I would say if you still have that, if that person is in the venue and they're buying food and beverage, maybe looking at merchandise, I don't care what they're doing at the game. That's my personal opinion. If it means you come to a game and you want to spend the entire 3 hours in the fantasy lounge and you're actually more watching your fantasy team than a product on your field, you're still a paying customer and you're here, and thank you for your business. So I'm for that. And when we're talking about this next generation, I think that's where it has to go, because it's just a smaller funnel of people who I'm going to sit in my seat for 3 hours and watch the action on the field.
Yeah. I think it is a challenge for teams, though, because, particularly in baseball, the games have gotten so long, right? 3 hours and 9 minutes now, I think, is the average Major League Baseball game. It's hard for anybody to keep their attention for 3 hours and 9 minutes, right? So you have to provide other sources of entertainment. At the same time, I just worry about the core product. Are we doing enough to take care of that and make that still a centerpiece?
Yeah,
of the activity?
absolutely.
Hey, we just got 2 minutes left. So one question I wanted to get to, and that's on sports betting. You had referenced it a couple of moments ago, and just a couple of years ago, teams treated sports betting like kryptonite. Right? They wanted to stay away from it. It's why teams weren't in Las Vegas. No league wanted to go in there. They just thought it was too risky to be close to that much gambling. It's changed dramatically. Teams and leagues are embracing sports betting. Do you think that betting and fantasy sports is sort of the savior of traditional sports because of the engagement?
I wouldn't say the savior. I mean, I think the product is still always going to be the core of it, but man, I think it's going to be a big part of it, Patrick. Even just the other day, my son's in algebra, 7th grade algebra, and I'm showing him betting lines. It's cool math. He really likes that. So if that in the end is the way that he gets more engaged with multiple sports, is that a good thing or a bad thing? I'm all in on it. I love it as a consumer. I'm here in Colorado. We've been legal for a while. So fantasy's been around for a long time. Sports betting is getting bigger and bigger. Fully embrace it.
Yeah. Well, Bill, we've run out of time. This has been a very, very quick half an hour. It's great to have you on the show. Great to chat with you, as it always is. It's really a privilege to spend some time with you this morning. Thanks for making the time. And thank you for watching Behind the Game. We'll see you again next month.
Thanks, Patrick.